Hey guys, we are live. Welcome to episode 35 of the weekly. And with me this week, of course, our usual host of characters. Starting off with Mr. AKA Black Iron _ Sam. How's it going, man?
How you doing?
Good. And of course, the one and only Mr. Juan Bagnell.
I'm on a couple hours of sleep with some coffee, so I think I could probably talk about some stuff that could happen.
Yeah, definitely. So if you guys are wondering, as we have different camera angles, this is a new thing on the show. We will be changing our camera angles every week. Maybe one from the floor shooting up, maybe an overhead shot, you name it.
Let's stay away from the floor.
Like, okay. Yeah, I was like, I really feel like people don't look up my nose enough when I podcast.
And we're all drinking different beverages too, so we need to.
Yes, different beverages this week. I'm all super healthy. Trying to recoup from last week. You guys don't want to know what happened.
Grapefruit drink in a jar.
I'm trying a new Boulder dark roast coffee from my Skywalker Ranch mug, which I actually got from Skywalker Ranch.
All right. Okay. Yeah, you top us all. Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm kind of a big deal. You know, it's how we roll.
Yeah. So, okay, let's start off this week with some news. Uselessness. We've not had a lot in the last couple of weeks, but here's one that is quite interesting. So, OnePlus has been found to be collecting your data without your permission. Yes. Terrible, isn't it?
I cannot believe this. They would never do something such as this.
Phone manufacturer tracking user data and not alerting their customers to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's unheard of.
No, not at all. Never.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How's it going, Warren?
I am here.
Yeah, we're talking about OnePlus collecting people's data without their information.
What else is new?
Yeah, there you go.
The thing is, I'm totally shocked that you're doing this. It's not like
what is up with y'all in these damn angles this week?
Oh my God!
Am I the only one with a consistent angle?
Apparently, you are.
This is the same shot that I've been using for like the last 3 weeks.
But you switched up. But you still switched up.
Well, I changed the quality of it. I didn't change the angle. I just feel like that needs some accuracy in making fun of me there.
He's like, don't judge me. I didn't do this on purpose.
No, I'm going to figure out a way to do some trippy angle like the rest of you guys.
Yeah, join us next week.
I really wish I could plug in, like, do an actual interactive drop. I've got a cable thread that I can sit a 360 camera from my ceiling, and I still haven't found any good like live stream solution for it. It's getting a little frustrating. I want to do like from the office, you can look anywhere in the office while we broadcast, kind of a thing.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Dope. Yeah.
Don't mind me, folks. I'm starving, so yeah.
No, that's all right. We're drinking. So yeah, Sam, you were saying about OnePlus.
No, I'm just saying it's totally surprising. They've never done anything like this before. Like, if you think about it, these guys, they're not the kind of people to basically ask them to send in pictures so they can basically get a phone based on how the person looks. They've never, done anything.
Completely forgot about that.
Yeah, so this is pure. I'm just saying, this is totally out of character for them. Just totally out of character. They've made so many good decisions. This is just another one of those things.
So, in all seriousness, I think one of the things that was upsetting, one of the things that's curious, is that apparently this is behavior they've been engaging in since the OnePlus 2. That this has been a story that people have been tracking for well over a year now, and that it's only just now starting to gather some momentum. But we kind of all have the sense that companies are probably paying attention to what we're doing on their products. What's troubling here is the fact that that OnePlus seems to be collecting some pretty intimate data, like when you turn your phone on, where your phone is when you turn it on. Mm-hmm. But they're not really setting up a good protection bucket for you. Apparently, your phone serial number and your location data and your usage data is just in a big old plain text bucket that if someone were to compromise that bucket, then they wouldn't have any issues pulling that data, using that data, utilizing that data. It's not like it's encrypted or anything. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be another increasingly big. I mean, we know that we're using Android products, that Google is deep into all our ish, right? So that's that's a troubling thought, but we also have some small sense of faith that the reason why they're in our data is because they're giving us better services and they're going to do a better job of protecting our little data bucket than a company like OnePlus.
Yeah, no, I agree, but it's a sad reality of what we are going to pay for in this mobile era is that everything. I mean, there was another company that was Rumba, right? Was collecting user data of, you know, I mean, like what, how it sweeps your home, the layout of your apartment, size, that kind of thing. You know, knowing that apartments in this area have this kind of square footage, like stuff like that is going to be collected. You just have to know that that's the case. And if not, you might want to use a regular broom and a flip phone, you know. Well, I mean, that's just what the prices can be.
But at what point? At what point in time does it? Because right now they said they had 2 streams that were collecting data. They were feeding 2 streams to an Amazon server, right? One you said is being used for post-sales support, right? Which is basically, you know, understanding what's going on with the phone, why it's being shut down, if it's running slow, just stuff like that. But like I get that. The second stream, I'm not quite sure exactly what the second stream is. So at what point do we start asking these companies that, okay, we pay you for hardware, we pay you for a service, we're not paying you for us to become basically an arm of your business, a data mine or a data collection node for your business. At some point, people have to stand up and say, hey, this is not acceptable. At least you give people the option right off the bat of turning this off. Like OnePlus came out with a statement saying you can turn this, one of the streams off, but at the end of the day, it's because people are outraged about this. The option needs to come before the outrage. You know, say, okay, this is an option. You can turn this off, but we do collect data, and we see that in Windows. We see that even in Android when it asks you if you want to make Android better by sending crash data, or you want to make Windows better by sending crash data. No, you can opt out of that. You know? So it's not as though.
Oh no, you need to send them that damn crash data so that so they can actually fix some crap.
No, that's Windows. I'm talking about Android. No.
Well, anywhere, like literally anything that can crash. We've got a comment in the live chat from Nicoy1 that's sort of pointing to the same thing, Sam. Just the problem, and we've mentioned this with other companies in the past. The problem seems to be one of disclosure.
Yeah.
When your users find out about something before you've alerted them to that thing, then you are instantly in massive damage control. And so, like, compared to a company like Google, Google is really upfront and aggressive and in your face about, we are in all of your stuff because you don't want to have to type out a reply in Gmail. So we'll give you auto options for your email replies. You'll never have to have a conversation with another living human being if you don't want to.
But those auto options are great, man. I mean,
no, I use them all the time. It's hilarious. Like, I really wonder at what point are just like machine learning algorithms having conversations between themselves, and then like humans are completely like out of that conversation. But anyway,
I can tell you what my machine learning AI was saying. Man, we saved him from another 8 keyboard incident.
Yeah, I'm sure. But again, there's a tangible benefit there. There's disclosure there, and we know that's what's at. We know what's happening there, and that's the major difference between one company doing massive data collection on an individual and another company secretly doing massive data collection on an individual.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note, it's a bad thing.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Just making sure my audio was acting a little funky there for a second.
Let's move on because we've spent some time on that already. Tesla fired 700 people this week. Like that. You know, when you snap your fingers, you know, just disappeared. This was part-time and full-time employees. I know, Sam, you're the one who brought this up, so can you give us some more details?
So reading news this morning, find out that Tesla basically got rid of around 400 to 700 workers, all based on performance reviews, which I find a little kind of...
My God!
I know, performance reviews.
Oh, your mic is
cutting in and out. Yeah. So to me, this is so typical Elon Musk, right? You read about how the guy wants the best of the best of the best, but then he does a company-wide performance review and just access 400 to 700 people. Like, oh, wow, maybe give him a chance to perform better or something. So I just think it kind of says a lot, because right now Tesla's going through some growing pains in becoming a real company, and you can almost feel the pressure building. And I think this was just a way for the company to actually relieve that pressure, for the company to send a message to everyone else that yes, we're behind on the release of we're behind on the construction of the Model 3. They're not releasing as many as they should have. They're not hitting their production targets. They haven't released the pickup truck, which they haven't announced the pickup truck, which they decided to push. They decided to push the announcements. They're having issues with recalling the Model X's because of the seats. I think an issue with seating. So yes, they're going through some growing pains, and I think this is just a way of saying we are committed to still having the best of the best people. And if we find out that people do not meet the Tesla or the Elon Musk standard, that's it. They're gone.
That's the key. It's not the Tesla standard. It's the Elon Musk standard.
Mm-hmm.
You read his book and you'll know what his standard is. And it's just not a lot of people that live up to that type of standard. And it's. I'm just surprised that somebody got fired for actual poor performance.
Yeah.
It's a bad thing we're talking about here, but I almost want to go shake the man's hand.
That's dirty. I love it.
That is so wrong.
But anybody that's worked in corporate America, you know how this rolls. The hardest thing to do in corporate America is actually get fired. Like, it's actually the hardest thing to pull off. The quickest way to get fired in corporate America is mess with their money. That's the quickest way. If you don't do any of that, you could be there for 20 years and be the worst performing person out there, but they'll still keep you. But the fact that they're doing it does show that commitment that, wait, we're trying to get somewhere. The thing is that this is I think don't they have like 30,000 employees or something like that?
Yeah,
or something like that. So that's a small percentage of what they fired off. But the thing is, it's being known now because of the news that Tesla's getting. But he's been doing this with Tesla and with SpaceX for years.
Yeah, I mean, SpaceX went through some really brutal chops too.
This isn't a new thing. Even when the companies were smaller, he was cutting people off if they weren't the performance standards.
And
that he's expecting.
And the performance he demanded from the guys at SpaceX when he was first starting this, it was brutal.
Brutal, that was brutal.
And he demanded a lot of himself too. So we know he's a high performing, really
he doesn't ask anything he can't do himself. Yeah, that's one thing I will say. If he will not ask anything he won't do himself. And anything that goes wrong or anything that isn't something they can't get something done, he immediately tries to do it himself to see what the problem is. He's not somebody who just fires people and doesn't know what's going on.
Oh yeah, and he puts his money where his mouth is. So I'll give him that. But this is just a very interesting example of the kind of.
Juan, any additions before we move to main topics?
Actually, no. You guys have all covered it pretty well. It's just I don't know. Is there something about the commentary on this? Like, we need that sort of disruptive, visionary, auteur individual. Like, I think for the last generation of folks that were really into technology, it was someone like a Steve Jobs. Like, we always seem to.
Let's not call Steve Jobs a visionary, okay?
I'm
going to call it again. I'm sorry. Steve Jobs was
drop the mic on it.
He was a marketing guru.
Thank you.
He was not a technology visionary.
Well, I think it's pretty clear, though, that a singular type of personality drives excitement at the top of the company.
Or a single turtleneck.
Like, look at Tim Cook, where we have like the most forward-thinkingest iPhone ever. He sounds.
Why do you sound like him? And that's bad. That's so bad.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now, from everything that I've heard, Tim Cook is actually an amazing individual to work for, and that there was just someone else who just recently, I think, posted his experiences interviewing Tim Cook for something or presenting Tim Cook something. I read it on Reddit, and again, just like echoes and echoes and echoes of just like Tim Cook is phenomenal. He's gracious. He's kind. He's present. He's a part of your presentation. He really cares that people succeed, but. What are the things that we're talking about with Apple right now? We sort of lack a certain je ne sais quoi. And right now, right now, the person at the head of a technology industry that's generating more excitement, more commentary is a lot more of a singular force of personality at the top of that company, and that's someone like an Elon Musk. It seems like we kind of always need one person who can at least be on the pulse. Jobs, whether or not he was actually able to do the things that he was tasking his engineers and developers to do, he was still that force of personality at the top of Apple that got them back on track.
Well,
And Elon Musk seems to be cut
I mean,
of a
Elon Musk,
similar.
yes.
But the other thing I would say to that is does Tim Cook have Tim Cook's people yet, or that's still a position? Sometimes it doesn't roll necessarily that way very instantly. Does he get the people that he wants in there? There's some people that might be still from the Jobs era around that he might not necessarily be able to move in his own people to get maybe the results that he wants.
I will definitely grant him that's a generational kind of turnover at Apple.
Yeah, it is
absolutely fair. That's totally fair. But again, for a Tim Cook, Apple was generating its most excitement when a megalomaniac was at the head of that company, right? Tim Cook is maybe one of the most brilliant operations guys to ever hit the technology landscape. You want someone to roll in and negotiate preferred manufacturing deals in China, keep all the trains running on time, and keep those profit margins high. Tim Cook is second to none.
Mhm.
But he's not a design guy, and he's not an exciting guy. And, his presentation style is a bit more
not Balmer,
chill,
sweaty pits.
Well, I mean, but even then, there's something really charming about Ballmer, even if he's not effective in that role.
Developers.
But that was the thing. To bring on to something. That during that time, I think a lot of people were more excited with Microsoft when Ballmer was around because he had such a passion, and I thought they might have tried to use Panos in the same similar way. And putting him sort of the forefront of everything. Is he really excited and passionate guy? Because that's what brings people into the products you're trying to present. And
so to your point, Warren, I think what we're looking at Apple is because you don't have someone with that kind of singular ego at the head of the company, you will have differing philosophies for what Apple is trying to accomplish. You'll have differing structure, and because Tim Cook is an operations guy, he's not going to want to leave any dime left on the table. And so you end up with things like you have the iPhone SE, 6S, 7, 8, 10, and then 2 different sizes for the 6S, 7, and 8. So you've never had that kind of spread of an iPhone being directly sold from Apple before. That's kind of a money guy way to run the company, not driving the market visionary kind of way to drive the company. And so we see, I think we're currently seeing a conflict of philosophies at Apple. Currently, Elon Musk ain't having none of that.
If you read his issues with PayPal and X.com,
he's out.
He ain't having none of that.
Yeah, he's out.
He's put himself in a position he'll never have to deal with that again. And he was right about PayPal.
He was right about PayPal.
He was right about PayPal.
Well, yeah, he was. He was very much right about PayPal, and I'm sure he would like to say that to everyone who would listen to him. But
yeah. Anyway, let's move on. First topic of the day is November 1st. Razer will be announcing something new, and the rumors are broken. Sorry, I said broke. Razer allegedly will be releasing a phone. Now, remember they bought Nextbit, not Nextbit Robbins, the phone. Nextbit, the company. Was it this year or last year? You guys remember? Last year?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
I
last year,
beginning of this year or the end of last year.
And from benchmarks, we're seeing, of course, an 835, 8 gigs of RAM, QHD display with a 16:9 aspect ratio, 64 gigs of RAM. Thoughts on this device? Also, you do know Razer owns THX as well as a company, so. Will we see some of that integration here? But just your general thoughts on what this means for a company like Razer, because they like to try different things all the time. That's their MO. Anyone can,
So again, so what sucks about where we're at with phones is the first the first product you put out is basically going to be irrelevant.
Yeah.
There's almost no point in talking about it because it's not going to be an instant success. It's not going to corner any piece of the market. It's not going to be king of the niche. And everyone who reviews it's going to say, this is a great phone, but don't buy it. And we won't take it seriously until we see that Razer's willing to lose 2 or 3 years worth of fights in the market. This is going to happen every single time we talk about something which has become as much of a commodity and as much as a necessity as the smartphone.
Mhm.
So now the big question is gaming, on-the-go gaming, this is a gaming company, we have an expectation of gaming performance on this product. Is that going to drive some part of the market to at least create a fan base where Razer can sustain this project for a couple years? And is this the killer app that some consumers think they're missing? I'm actually really hoping it's not a phone. I really hope Razer is looking at some type of mobile gaming product that can maybe take the Android ecosystem and a more smartphone style delivery system head to head against like the Nintendo Switch. You know, I think there's plenty of room in the market for a companion device to actually shake things up in a way that I think NVIDIA was just too early to the game with their Shield products. And Razer could benefit from that maturity in the market and that proof of concept from Nintendo to maybe do something really interesting there. But if it's a phone, we know it's not going to sell well. We know it's not going to be a success. Everyone's going to pan it. And then we'll have to wait to see if they actually iterate on that idea.
Mhm.
Well, it's interesting. I'm looking at the specs here, and this is going to be one powerful device with 7.5 gigabits of memory. That's amazing.
Eight.
Yeah.
That 7.5 is just, the way memory reads stuff.
Yeah.
8 gigs, man.
8 gigs.
8. Sorry, that's 9. 8.
All right, and then it has the Qualcomm Adreno 540 in there, which means this is the 835 chipset. So it's going to be very interesting. It's basically taking the high end of a Qualcomm chip, and it has two OpenGL APIs in there. One OpenGL and one OpenCL. I'm sorry. So this is very interesting. I think it's definitely going to be aligned towards gaming because we know what Razer does. But I think it is a phone, a very powerful one at that, with a 5.7-inch screen, more like a tablet, right? This is going to be. It's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to this.
Just to harken back on what Juan was talking about, and I do agree. Remember, Razer has dabbled in the Android gaming sphere before with their box, and then they bought Ouya as well. So they have all these components to technically make exactly what you're talking about. It still will be a phone to a large degree, but it doesn't mean you can't come home and expand that experience on your TV or something like that, or if you go to a hotel or wherever the case may be. The one question I wanted to ask, and I'll go to you, Warren. Like, Razer has that Synapse software, which initially was all about just storing all your settings, right? So if you had a Razer keyboard, you had a Razer mice, headsets, you kept all your settings in the cloud. How do you think that will play with this phone, especially if they extend it? Because Snap settings is initially, I found it annoying until I got the Razer Blade and I realized that, oh shoot, I still have my gaming settings from way back when. I could import it. But how do you think that will apply with a phone itself? Because that's something they've been pushing for a while, and I think they probably will push with this device as well.
Not it.
Warren, do you want to tackle it?
Oh no, your audio is done. Can't hear you.
Oh, me? Warren?
No, Warren.
Sam, how about you go ahead?
All right, so basically with Synapse is pretty cool, right? The whole idea of basically storing things in the cloud. But the thing for me with Synapse is there's always been a constant updates, right? Almost every single time I turn it up, there's an update. It's a great thing for them to use, especially if they use what Nextbit has done, right? So like you're saying, they have technology from all these companies, and what Nextbit did with the Robin is, the whole idea that if you don't use apps, if you don't use an app enough, it basically almost goes to the background, deletes itself, and doesn't take up system memory or storage. So just imagine both of those being combined. You have Synapse that basically stores all your profiles. And if you're not using a certain application, if you're not using something like, if you stop using the Razer mouse, instead of you going in and, deleting that, it basically fades out, phases out that whole application. That'd be pretty cool. I think that is something that they can do with the technology they have. And the whole idea of being able to pick up a phone, pick up a laptop, game on your PC and still have your profiles wherever you go, that might be a feature that actually enables them to sell this device. So they do have a few unique technologies that they can apply to this, and make an argument for a gamer friendly phone. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be exactly what the implementation of the hardware, and if they can justify the use case, if they can actually give you this phone at a price point that isn't the $1,000 iPhone 10 or the almost $1,000.
There's a part of me that agrees with that on price, but there's a part of me that also wonders maybe that's what they need to do is come out with like a $900 phone so they can have the price war under the iPhone 10, but that high price point is still linked with consumers that this is going to be a nice product. That if it's too cheap, then they'll act like, oh well, it's probably not as good as one of the other.
Warren. Oh
yeah, I'm getting nothing but crackle on your side.
Crackle, man. You might want to change your headset. Yeah, I can't mute Warren from here, so okay. Yeah. But no, I do agree with you on that aspect. I think it's interesting though. I think the best thing for them, without worrying about price, is really highlighting the use case. Like you said, if it's really gamer centric and you can, it's a Nintendo Switch without being the Nintendo Switch. Like one of the disadvantages of the Switch is its size, right? If you think about it, it's something that you have to carry separately. So if the Razer phone was that, without being that separate device where it's like, it's always in my pocket anyway, right? I can game. And then when I get back home, I can continue and, do whatever I need to do, or I can transfer to my PC because it's a Razer PC, for instance, through Synapse. Then, hey, that might be the selling point. We can hear you.
Okay, now it's working. Something's going on with Hangouts.
What, Hangouts and audio having problems?
The one thing I want is I want them to call this a THX certified phone and put as much THX tech in that as possible.
And that's crazy is to know that they've gone through these types of partnerships. They own some great labels. How much do you want to bet that they overlook that? They just mention it. With our partnership with THX, you can expect the highest quality.
They have a partnership. They own THX.
No, but that's what I mean. Is like, how much do you want to bet that they fumble this just because like no other company seems to get this stuff right?
I hope not. I think
the closest so far, even though it makes me a little sad to know that they're kind of just using it as a labeling or branding exercise, is Samsung with AKG. Like they are making a lot of noise that they spent a lot of money to pick up AKG.
Yeah, then they should start like really pushing it properly. I mean,
but it's AKG tuned.
Yeah, it's tuned. I mean, I think if I'm Samsung, like the S9, and we'll get to that. Actually, let's just even move to that topic. Oh, what great segue! I wasn't even thinking about it.
Yeah. I'm looking out for you.
I didn't get my opinions on the phone.
You kept on dropping in and out, so I didn't even know you were back. I had no idea you were back until you started talking. All right, so there you go. Go ahead. Continue.
This phone's going to be crap. No, the phone's going to be, if I know them, they're going to do some probably hybrid phone docking type thing that you can, play games on the go and then dock it into some docking station and play games on your TV and do all sort of those things and try to really push the Android gaming market a little bit higher and really try to get some more powerful games maybe out of that. This thing is only going to be a phone because it's going to give you like some type of connection. If you're not around Wi-Fi, you can game on, LTE or something like that. I mean, you'll be able to take phone calls to do those things, but it won't be its main focus. But what smartphone is the main focus for being a phone these days anyway, so. I see this. I think I'm trying to push gaming onto this as much as they can, and we'll wait to the second or third version where it actually gets to where they say it's going to be, if they get that far with it.
Yeah, that's pretty much the main point. If they can get that far, then they were, at least stated their claim as being the only manufacturer to provide you a mobile phone and a gaming experience at the same time. So we just have to wait and see. Speaking of Samsung, the third Samsung topic, which I jumped to, was the Galaxy S9 camera. Well, the information from GSM Marina talks about two camera sensors Samsung is working on. One is a 12 megapixel 1.2 microns, so 1.28 microns with dual pixel, and the other is a 24 megapixels with 0.9 microns. And the talk here is that this will reduce camera bumps. It also has a new technology called tetracycle, which we use three cycle sensors to give you better light increasing light sensitivity, so you can. Oh, tetracell. I said tetracycle. Wow, I went to like organic chemistry. My bad.
Nerd.
Exactly. I'm about to say boring.
I'm like, oh, that is that biochem coming out of him. Like,
it just came out. To give you better lighting. I mean, there's been talk of Samsung really pushing its camera sensors, talking about, the next camera sensor will have 1,000. Is it 1,000 frames per second for slow-mo, if I'm not mistaken? Something like that. That was the last rumor. And it looks like this is something we're going to get on the S9. What do you guys just think about just the camera tech itself?
We'll let Juan go. He is the real camera review person in here.
Yeah.
The camera guy.
I'm
But she can teach you to show you how to. I messed that whole segment up. Let me try that again. I said, which she can teach you. Like roughly in smartphone for I can't remember the name of the book. I blew it. Never mind. I was trying to pitch the book.
So the concern I have, I don't doubt Samsung's ability to make killer sensors. I really wish that they had continued with their interchangeable NX line, because those backlit APS-C CMOSs were phenomenal. Where I have concerns, I think Samsung, if I'm reading this and I'm doing the math on this, that the pixel sizes are going to be getting smaller, that the pixel pitch is going to be getting smaller and the sensor size is going to be getting smaller. Where I have some concerns is really just the overall surface area of each one of these sensors, and that Samsung seems to be trying to make it up with more computational photography and image processing on the back end to make up the difference of pure physics of how much light can hit each one of these sensors. I'm not saying they can't pull it off, because if any company could, because I haven't seen anything so exciting out of Sony for phone sensors over the last year, that Samsung actually has an opportunity here to do something radical. But what I was really hoping to see from Samsung was more word on some of the experiments that they were running in-house for a larger sensor, where they were looking at a sensor nearly the size of what we had in the Lumia 1020. And especially given Samsung's ability to sync a sensor, the depth that they are able to create phenomenal photography products and have them near flush on the back of a phone, that could have been really compelling. I would have greatly preferred that as an exercise over dual sensor or smaller sensor but more software driven. That to me could be a tangible benefit for the photography space, but it'd be more expensive and harder to explain to consumers why it's different or why it's better. And that's kind of a bummer. And I think that's what we're seeing driving this new generation of ISOCell.
Yeah, I mean, what you were saying right there about having to explain it, that's kind of where Nokia's downfall was in a lot of cases. They had, awesome camera tech that was ahead of everyone, but it's really hard to explain why their camera tech was better than someone else's in the end of the day. And even something that was a little lower center than the Lumia 1020, what I forgot the name of the phone. The Verizon exclusive one was also great as well too, but it's hard to explain.
It was the Icon. It was like
Icon,
our version of the Lumia 930.
Yeah, and it take great photos. It wasn't as good as the 1020, but it's hard to explain to people the differences between the two and sell the user base on. You can sell the users, but selling average consumer on that.
It's hilarious that you can still pick up a 1520 or a 930, and it's still hanging with current phones today. I just, you know, when you have that right mix of resolution, sensor size, and good software processing, all three going hand in hand. Oh, and good mics. Killer audio.
Killer audio.
When you're shooting
Killer
video.
audio on those things.
And that's what I thought. That's what I thought Samsung was going to be building towards with their next generation of cameras.
I think the problem.
I think they're walking the other way.
I think we would have gotten that if we weren't in such the bezel-less and must be made of glass race, where any materials could be used. It didn't really matter how thin or thick the bezels were. And we just got the tech that was inside of it. But since we're into everything's got to have this striking elegance to it, it limits what you can actually put inside of a smartphone. Yeah. So yeah, I could see why like larger sensor is going to be a harder thing for them to accomplish versus let's see what we can get out of the sensor we have now, or make the sensor smaller and get the most we can out of it. And if we have to use software to be able to do that, to give it close to performance of a larger sensor. Right now, that's what the option is going to get chosen. Yeah, agreed.
Sam, anything?
No. I think both you guys they both said everything that needs to be said about this. I just think it's very interesting how phones are going to turn, what phones are going to look like as these sensors get smaller and smaller. Having a sub 1 micron pixel size is going to be very interesting. I mean, we would really have to know exactly how this affects picture quality, because right now we have devices, point and shoot devices on our phones that are better than a lot of point and shoots that we had even a couple of years out. So it's really going to be interesting how, you know, the quality of the cameras and also what the phones that will look like in the next few years with this cameras look like. You know, if I can pick up my phone and it's like almost paper thin and I still have a camera in that thing, I'm going to be pretty impressed with that. So I think I'm optimistic that they're already committed to continuing working on reducing the size of their cameras. And we've already seen from a design perspective, they're also working on making phones more sleek, you know, melding that art and technology together. I just think it's a good thing all around.
Okay. Speaking of good things, Samsung is definitely having a good quarter. Samsung points to guidance that Q3 will have record profits, sales of up to 55 billion, and profits at up to about $12.87 billion. Now, this could be attributed to a number of factors. Their phones are selling well. The Galaxy Note 8 is selling well. And also, they have this thing called the iPhone X, which would be giving them $100 per device sold. Wow. So
$100.
Yeah, $100 per device sold.
So how much piece of that does Microsoft get, since they have all the Android patents?
No, that's literally for the display. So Microsoft is not even touching that. But
they got to pay them. That's what I'm saying. How much of that 100? How much of that 100 they got to give to Microsoft?
Microsoft has great profits from Android at $2 billion. Who knows? Anyway.
And Windows Phone makes.
Windows Phone is officially dead, by the way.
We never really did talk about that, did we?
Did they give that out
this week? They stated that it's dead. They just kind of
it was like on my wife's birthday, and all of the news came in from who was it that tweeted? Was it
Belfiore? I think so.
No, it was not
from Microsoft.
Yeah, there was one of the Microsoft VPs literally in just Twitter conversations. It's like, yeah, I moved over to an Android, and we're still going to support Windows Phone for people who have it in corporate. And
what's his name is using Android now? Bill Gates. That was last week. Yeah, he moved.
But no, I think it was Joe Belfiore.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, like the person who was like most responsible for showing off Windows Phone hardware, just casually dropping it, MBD, Twitter chat, super cas, wearing my in a hoodie, and by the way, Windows Phone is dead. But we've got this really cool new launcher that you can play in Microsoft, and the Edge browser beta is on iOS 11, but Windows Phone is dead. And just, and
all you hear is, boo! Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The Edge, surprisingly, the Edge beta for iOS went fast. Like, because you can only have so many beta participants on iOS, and like he announced it, and then like a half hour later had to say, oh, by the way, no one else can use it now because we're still in beta.
Well, how many did he have
open? All those Windows phone users who were like, I finally got to use an iPhone now.
Yeah. They either went to iPhone or Android, and that's what they only had two options. It's just like, I mean, I guess I got to figure out a way to sync things to your PCs because it's not like you can do that the way they want to do that in a Windows phone, or oh my God, like we're gonna go into a Microsoft fan. Let's just keep moving on. Let's just keep moving on.
Samsung exec, the CEO from Samsung Electronics stepped down, citing unprecedented crisis. Which
unprecedented crisis.
I mean, when I saw that news, I was like, but you guys just posted like profits. Like, who else is going to jail?
When exactly? When
who else is going to jail?
Yeah. When the heir apparent of your company actually gets carted off to jail, that's kind of an unprecedented crisis.
Yeah,
I know, but it's the same time as the guidance for the profits came out. So like on one hand, you're like, we are making money, and the other hand, it's like, I'm leaving. Exactly.
I'm going to jail.
So yeah, well, I mean, Samsung needs to get its house in order.
Oh, but wait a minute. So there's literally no other information than one person stepping down saying crisis.
Jail.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a problem.
We already know the face.
I mean, basically, the crisis is referring to is the 5-year jail time awarded to the heir of the company. I mean, that's literally it. There's nothing else that's in there. He's just like. His statement was like, we did a really good job. I liked what we've done as a company. The people have done well, and it's an unprecedented crisis. So, adios.
And I'm going to jail. I will not cross 200. I will not cross go, nor will I collect $200.
Yeah, so that was pretty much it. Moving on from Samsung, Oculus had his Oculus Day, and they announced a couple of headsets. One of them was the Oculus Go, which is the standalone headset. Will be powered most likely by a Snapdragon Dragon chipset.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, I know, right? They also showed off their true wireless headset as well, and they also had a price cut for the original Oculus, which would go to $399 to combat Microsoft's mixed reality, which headsets, which are $299 and $399 if you get it with the controllers. I will say this: I used the mixed reality headset and I played a couple of games I have on my Oculus and Vive on there, and it plays the same damn way. I mean, whatever Microsoft did with mixed reality, the fact that you don't need sensors and you can move around, like that, like it was really good. So Oculus now looks like they have serious competition from a company who, I mean, Microsoft has always had tech like this. It's just that,
who's invested in them technically, because they invested in Facebook.
So anyway, what do you guys think about the Oculus Go, which is the standalone headset? We know there's rumors that Vive is coming out with one as well. I think Google has one that's going to be coming out soon, right? Google mentioned a standalone Daydream headset earlier this year. But what do you think about the Oculus Go?
Well, I think we already had this conversation. I'm not the biggest fan. I think it's a step in the wrong direction for a company that has been somewhat flailing to figure out exactly what its direction is. They make high-end gaming VR. If it comes to mobile VR, they work with Samsung on the Gear VR. So that's already covered. They already covered that in a way. If it comes to low, if you're saying that, they want to be at a price point where more people can have access to it, then this $200 price point, although good, is still more expensive than a Gear VR with a phone you already have, or getting what Google's Daydream 2. That's still cheaper to do that than go for this. I don't really quite understand what Oculus or what Facebook is doing with Oculus. To me it makes no sense. This is unnecessary. And if you're saying it's a reaction to Microsoft, then they shouldn't be reacting to anyone with a product like this. They should be pushing. Their reaction should be to push the quality and the tech that they've had for the last few years of pioneering VR. So I'm still kind of.
See, I think the best reaction was the price match. Like the $399, yes, you dropped the price. That was a really good reaction, which means the next Oculus I'm buying will be the truly wireless one, right? They demoed it, they showed it. I'm like, okay, fine. I don't have anything tethered, man. Tethered.
Tether.
And then that can be a $699 Oculus, right? You can justify it because it's truly wireless. But you are right, because now for me as a consumer, the price point is very funky. At $200, if I spend more money, I can go to a true Oculus and not by much. It's not like I'm spending anything like, $500 more, but you can move up. And then really I could either get my Gear VR or Daydream or anything at a cheaper price. So I don't know. What do you think, Juan? I know you like a lot of the lower end models in terms of like just giving people access, but what do you think about this strategy and where this kind of positions things?
Well, because I share some of Sam's concerns. You could dock your phone into some kind of headset and arrive at a commiserate or at least an entry-level VR solution significantly cheaper. Looking at the business and the optics on this, though, it doesn't seem that consumers are really doing that. Part of the issue, I think, with that strategy is you have to take your phone, your mission critical communications lifeline device, out of commission and potentially, really plummet the battery, run it really hot and sweat into your Daydream headset. And mine, I don't share my Daydream with other people. I really like that gunslinger game. And I can only play it for about 10 minutes at a clip on my Pixel before it gets screaming hot. I can play it for a little bit longer on my Galaxies. They do run a little cooler. But after about 15 minutes, I'm sweating buckets. Like, I'm not going to spread that funk to another one of my friends.
Sharing is caring.
Yeah.
Not Care Bears.
The VR. So what we have an opportunity here for, if we're going to claim that VR still has the potential to go mainstream, is moving it to another device. Kind of like what I was saying with Razer and a phone. Maybe a phone isn't the way to go. Maybe a companion device might be a safer, smarter play if we're looking at the optics on what consumers are apt to spend money on, where their entertainment dollars are going to go. It's even down to little things like I posted an unofficial poll on the Pocket Now Twitter, just asking if anyone had ever used some type of VR solution on an airplane. Like your Gear VR, that seems to make sense to me. Like a lot of airplanes have chargers. You don't have to worry about your phone being dead when you land. Could you watch a movie and really block out the fact that you were, in the cheap seats on an economy airplane? And I think only like 4 or 5% of the people who responded. We got, I think, over 1,000 votes.
I've never even thought about that.
Yeah.
But that to me starts to become like, is this stuff really going mainstream? Is this stuff really going mainstream? And I think we're still at that place where consumers are reticent to put a Borgy face computer over their face. And that to me, I think, is still a significant struggle in trying to get this stuff adopted. It's maybe even less, is it at the right price, or is it at the right functionality, or does it have the apps? It's just getting people used to the idea of wearing a computer on their face. I still think we have significant hurdles to overcome there. I'm confident that we'll see a little bit more traction now that we see real competition, though. When the competition was only Vive versus Oculus, we're talking the premium, expensive, big boy players. Consumers weren't going to jump on board. PlayStation 4, good step in the right direction. And I think now that we've got killer options from phones all the way up to mixed reality, and then all the way up into the next generation of whatever Premiere VR is going to look like, at least the people who are wanting to experiment will have solutions at different price points that they can hit.
No, I think it's definitely there. And the one thing I will say with mixed reality is you see a lot of design concepts from HoloLens come into play. So just putting the headset on is really easy. The HoloLens has the wind-up clip at the back. And then you can also just flip up the headset and look around. You don't have to take it off. It's not cumbersome. Like, they've done a really good job in that.
Yeah, it's just frustrating that a consumer can't actually buy one.
Oh, no, it's coming out in...
No. I mean, in this moment. We've been talking about HoloLens.
Oh,
For
no.
I
I meant the HoloLens design in mixed reality. I'm not talking about HoloLens. I'm like,
no. See, I'm of the mind that something like that is actually where true disruption
True,
is
yeah,
gonna happen
exactly.
across the market. And you guys have heard me prattle on about that. I don't need to go down that well again.
Yeah, but HoloLens needs to fix one major thing. The field of view is
Field of view.
very, very small. So once they deal with that, then they can release it out and people would be like, oh, okay, this is cool. Moving on to a company that looks like it's doing well. Maybe it's just because they sold some people over to Google. HTC doubled its revenue in September. Yeah.
They made $200.
Someone bought a discounted phone.
No, I mean, like, again, I'm always going to be happy to see the letters HTC surviving. I have concerns long term. I really think that this is a sneaky way to do the Motorola deal without just axing jobs and cutting a bunch of redundant positions and garnering a bunch of negative headlines. I'll be super surprised, no matter how successful HTC might be in the next over the next 2 fiscal quarters, if they exist in any recognizable form by 2020.
Yeah, but even with this news, it's still a 17% decline in revenues from last year. So that's not a small decline.
Well, I mean, the problem has been very clear. It's HTC has not released compelling products for users. I mean, the U11.
I don't know. So I mean, okay, I agree that there are some optics problems, not camera. I mean, like in getting consumer visibility for the U11, but it's a good phone. It's a very good phone. Same thing. The HTC 10 last year was probably one of the best phones of the year.
Yeah, see, but think about it. Think about what happened last year. They did exactly what LG did. The HTC 10 last year, we all said, good phone. Let's see what you do. You've done a rebound. Let's see what you do this year. Then they go make Squeezy, and everybody was like, forget it. I mean, not like it's a bad phone, but it lost a lot of people.
I think Squeezy is a gimmick. Isn't what's convincing consumers not to buy the phone?
No, I know. I'm just calling the phone generally.
HTC had a problem with their getting that phone to partner with a carrier. What carrier partnered with the 10? Nobody did.
No one did, and they made two terrible missteps with the M9. The M9, it wasn't really their fault that the M9 was such a dog of a performer, but you know that carriers were fielding a ton of complaints on LG and HTC that year. Both companies took a huge hit in the market because of Qualcomm. Then AT&T stuck their neck out for HTC on the A9. Yeah. And if you were going to do an iPhone clone and make it that expensive, that was the wrong way to try and do an expensive iPhone clone. And after that, it was after the A9 that AT&T severed their relationship, their partnership, their carrier deals with HTC. So when the HTC 10 came out and they knew they were going to have to do it alone, what did they do? Did they double down on their company, increase advertising on their own, really reach out to consumers and try and build a legit groundswell of fandom and activity? No, they went radio silent. So that's on them. But the phone was great. The HTC 10 is a baller phone. It's still a baller phone. And the U11, I think, is a very good device, just a very good device in an era where we've moved on to different screen aspect ratios, dual camera experiments, and it feels a little dated, even though it's maybe the shiniest, prettiest back any manufacturers made.
Well, that helped the way they presented it. They released that phone out. It was like in some hidden chamber at CES. Here's a U11, and
right.
And then there's no like there was no like real mass.
Wait. CES wasn't CES the U Ultra? Like what was that?
Yeah, it was U Ultra. But here's the thing, though, and this is something they need to learn from OnePlus. As bad as OnePlus can do certain things, is that they always generate that, like you said, the marketing, the excitement for a OnePlus device. Now rumblings are coming back again about the OnePlus 5T, which now they do every year. You know, they do one and they do 5T. It's like HTC has forgotten how to generate interest. You know, It's not necessarily a matter of you spending a whole lot of big ad bucks. Yeah, you have to do that. But
well, look at their strategy this year in trying to get, I forget what their evangelist program is, but basically we just had a bunch of really angry individuals like brigading on all of our videos if we said anything critical about the phone because we were obviously biased and paid off by Samsung. And you're like, that was the wrong, you astroturfed your fandom, you didn't grassroots it.
Yeah.
Now that's causing problems because it makes HTC fans look like douchebags. It makes them look like angry internet trolls, not like an actual passionate fan community of people who like to talk about that product. So they have a severe optics problem at HTC beyond like their Desire line. If they can't get ahead of the conversation and actually start reaching out to consumers, putting boots on the ground, having hands-on, having demos, having mall kiosks like Samsung started with, they are irrelevant to the consumer discussion. They do not matter, and they will not sell.
Thank you for that very poignant end to HTC. Moving on, our last topic. The ongoing suit between Apple and Qualcomm. Qualcomm is suing Apple in China, aiming to ban production and sales. The suit comes from the fact that Qualcomm says Apple infringes on some patents based on power management and force touch technology. So we'll see what happens, if this goes through or stops production of certain phones. Doesn't say which phones this applies to, but if I'm Qualcomm, I'm most likely looking at the phones that sell the best, which would be the 5 and the 6, and not care about the 7 and 8 because that's where Apple makes most of their money. The truth here, people, is that Apple has stopped giving you, this has nothing to do with this, but Apple has stopped giving us exact numbers on which phones sell. They just give us iPhone sales. And as Juan alluded to earlier, Apple has a range of iPhones now, all the way from the SE to the 10. And it reminded me of something.
They're currently actively selling 8 different models, 8 different SKUs of iPhone, not counting the variations in storage size.
Yeah, and it reminded me of something Michael Fisher said when we had a little chat, and he was saying that if you think about it, iPhone users, he's like, from his anecdotal evidence, a lot of iPhone users don't even know what devices they have. His friend came over and says, oh, this new iPhone, do I have to upgrade mine? I have a 4. And he's like, this is a 6.
No. It's the 4th iPhone that I've owned. It's the iPhone 4.
So I mean, yeah, just to put it out there.
I'm just playing. We know not all iOS fans are.
No, we're not saying you are, but if you are, I'm sorry that you are.
Which means he's saying you are.
Wow. That was borderline, Marie Antoinette. Just don't be slow.
And and on that note, we've come to end of topics. If there's any questions anybody has, or is there anything else in the chat? I know there was some talk about USB Type-C audio there for a minute in the chat.
Yeah, the fact that it hasn't been standardized, that's why we.
It's going to be a hot mess.
It's like 3 years already, still no OIS on Sony cams.
Yeah, well, and we just did our
There's no OIS in any of the cameras. Sorry, I'm looking there and there. Yeah.
On what?
On their cell phone cameras, no OIS?
No.
Nope.
I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just computational image processing doesn't compare to the Pixel. I mean, it's good, but it's going up against phones like the Pixel.
Well, it's not like Sony ever really cared about their own camera. They would sell their camera to other manufacturers who would make better photos than the phones in their own cameras.
I mean, so we've just wrapped up our XZ1 compact review, and it was sort of like flashbacks of the Moto X2 for me, where I love the form factor. I really love the demographic that it's targeting. I like that there's a premium option for a small form factor device. And then you fire up the camera, and it fights you the entire time you're trying to take a photo. There's no autofocus for video. The 4K imaging is, for some reason, 2 stops darker than when you shoot in 1080p. Just very odd pieces of software. Oh, like when you're outside, you'll tap to focus, and the phone will slowly rack the focus onto your subject. And then when you hit the shutter button, about half the time you hit the shutter, it will then again recycle the focus to make sure it's locked after you've already preset the focus. I mean, like, so many completely odd choices for photography and video and image processing, even though it's got an excellent image sensor and pretty good lenses on that phone. It's just such it's such a strange feel actually using that camera.
Let's talk about Sony for a second. As well as Samsung is doing its smartphones, you would think Sony would be in this space. There's almost literally no excuse for them to not be either a 1B or number 2 next to Samsung in terms of Android smartphones. They have every capability that Samsung does, every single one. They can make AMOLED. They're another one that can do it on their own if they wanted to. They have everything there.
To stop production.
But they have the abilities. They might have stopped production, but they have the abilities. So they could have in-house everything like Samsung outside of a processor. That'd be the only thing they'd have to go and buy. But somehow they want to be the most irrelevant company in smartphone history. They're out to be like number 5. Like if we're number 5 in the game, we good. Like you think about it. You let
and that they're not even number 5.
Not even that. And then like LG, I'm expecting to be where they are. They have the same capabilities as Samsung and the rest, and Sony as well too. HTC doesn't really have that way in the same way. We can see some of the struggles they're running into. I mean, even having a Huawei's now up there and doing these things, and it's just it's just as Nick Goy once says, Sony is stupid. Like it is. I just don't know what else to say to him. Like it doesn't make any. And the thing is, the tech community as a whole wants to like Sony phones.
Yeah,
we want to actually review them as good because hardware-wise, because hardware design-wise, they're the only ones that challenge Samsung in the Android space. They're the only ones that do, and they rival Apple. They're up there with that in terms of phone designs and the way things look. And we've seen, they've used the same damn candy bar aesthetic, I swear, for the last 5 years on their phones. But it doesn't matter because it's usually a very beautiful-looking phone. But yet, we're here again. We'll be at CES again. We'll be at CES. They'll introduce some phone in their long press conference. We'll all take photos and then forget about it.
So the internal discussion that the rumor mill is having is that this is the last generation. The XZ1 is the last generation of phones to follow this aesthetic, and that Sony will be shifting over. So we'll see.
If a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there, does anyone hear it?
Yes.
Nobody hears this. Nobody cares if it's gonna be.
I bet they sell reasonably well in Japan.
No,
they don't. That's the thing. They don't.
I didn't say well. I said reasonably well.
I think Apple's number 1, Samsung's number 2, maybe LG.
The LGs are kind of behind. I mean, even back in the flip phone days, I think NEC was selling better than back in the flip phone days in Japan.
That is so true. It was Nokia, NEC, then Sony.
They were getting killed. They've never been a number 1.
No, but you know what Sony is?
Market their things, man. They don't market their phones.
Yeah, they did. They marketed their phones. You guys remember the PlayStation phone? The PSP?
No. The thing is this, right? They didn't market their phones well enough. Although they had great hardware.
No, they don't.
If you look at for me, I think when Sony was doing good with phones, it was back in the Sony Ericsson days.
That's the key thing.
Exactly.
When they were Sony Ericsson, they were very, very much on par. And then I think they bought that Ericsson wing in.
Yeah, because Sony went strictly wireless
hard antennas and stuff like that. They brought that company in, but it seems like they brought them in, they didn't know what to do with them.
But to what's his name? Imagine Zagi's point. He's like, I own a pair of Sony wireless headphones, and they don't market it. Sony makes
No. See, the thing is, Sony is known for things like headphones. People know they don't have to market that. Sony's a name in that space. They don't have to market the cameras. Everybody knows they got boss ass cameras. And the
but it's
TVs,
not.
Everybody knows they have boss ass TVs. It's everything else
of not marketing. But look at the market sphere, even headphones, right? Bose had to market headphones again. You know, Bang & Olufsen, who don't usually market headphones, started marketing headphones. Yeah. I'm not saying they had to go all out, but Sony had to just tell people, look, remember, this is what we do. You don't have to necessarily go crazy, but you have to remind people that you're there.
Well, Bose is marketing.
I was going to say, it's literally just like, hey guys, we exist.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then people go like, oh yeah, remember, I used to have a pair of Sonics. Let me try this out. They don't even do that.
They were the king of the Walkman. They will
I was just about to say, hey, remember the Walkman? Remember that?
Or the mini Discman?
No, but not only the king of the tape deck, but they ran the CDs too, and they had the mini disc that had line-in recording.
Oh, I love mini disc. It was great.
They were absolutely ahead of everyone in every aspect of that space, and they let it all just vanish.
Dude, Bravios were the shit for a minute.
Yeah, they were.
Private TVs were. I mean, come on.
Well, the thing is, private TVs are still good. It's just that the competition is doing better and cheaper. You can get better. You can get better than what a Sony gives you without having to pay the Sony tax. That's exactly what happened. The tax didn't last any longer, and they still have the tax sitting there. Like people are going to pay for it.
True story, right? With my first Bravia, the reason I got my first Bravia, I planned for it for 2 years. I got a Vizio to begin with, and then I kept that Vizio because it was like less than $500. I'm like, I'm gonna save up for my Bravia. So I saved up for 2 years to get like a high-end Bravia, and that was one of the happiest purchases I did. I have a Sony Bravia TV.
Remember when Kaz said you gotta save up to buy a PlayStation? That's what exactly happened to Sam right there.
That didn't work so well when they said you got to save up for PlayStation 3. That works so
well. Hey, guys! By the way, Imagine Zagi is apparently of the female persuasion, so you just might want to. I
Imagine Zagi.
She's calling that out when
that was all Thunder's fault.
My bad. I'm sorry.
But they still market advertise like kid. Yeah, no, they market and advertise like kid. But that's the thing. But see, Samsung had the biggest benefit that really what brought them into this market is they came and kicked Sony's ass in TVs. That's exactly what brought their name up very, very high. You don't realize when flat panels were first coming out, there was Sony and there was Samsung. Samsung was matching them in terms of quality or beating them, and were pricing $200 to $300 under what they were doing, what Sony would put out. So Samsung was selling a whole lot of this stuff. So Samsung's name started to come up in the work. So it was easy transition to go, oh, hey, you have the Samsung TV. Come look at this Samsung phone with a very similar looking display and feel and look, and it matches your TV. And it was a real easy transition for them to do those things. And now you have your Blu-rays and all that other stuff. They did what Sony essentially did. They took Sony's strategy of branding.
Well, the thing about Samsung is that Samsung did what a lot of companies didn't do at the time. Samsung had one R&D pool, and they said whatever is made here. Remember that's what happened with Sony.
Yeah.
Whatever we make in this R&D pool, we will use across our divisions. Sony had an R&D for PlayStation that they didn't get to the Blu-ray R&D guys who were making the same thing at all. So, Sony fell into a lot of those kind of issues. Imagine Zagi talks about Sony Vio laptops. Let us not talk about this.
Remember one of the first.
No, we have to have Andrew. We'd have to have Andrew.
Remember Andrew's
probably pop up. Watch him pop up in the chat randomly. Yo, you say Sony? Yeah, what? They just start going in.
Yeah, he had a terrible time with that Vio laptop.
The thing was, Vios used to be really good, but when we knew they were phasing the brand out, essentially, it was like towards the last year they had it was a bad time to buy the brand of anything of Vio. They used to have good. Speaking of that, they used to have good PC monitors too. Really, really good PC monitors.
Yeah. Especially if you're doing coloring or like right now, LG leads that market in terms of like 100 sRGB color monitors and stuff like that.
Them and NEC, but NEC makes great monitors, but you got to know NEC makes great monitors, and then NEC is expensive and doesn't look as nice. Kind of, but back then NEC was like the
NEC monitors are for work. There's nothing sexy about it.
Nothing sexy about it. I mean, it'll look good. It'll look very, very good and very color accurate, but it's boring and expensive.
Well, at least today, our company of railing and despair is Sony and not Microsoft. So thank you very much, guys.
Oh, we still threw a little shade Microsoft's way.
Oh,
it wouldn't be a Booredatwork podcast.
Speaking of Microsoft, did you guys get the fall update on your Xboxes?
No, not yet.
I got mine yesterday. And Microsoft, one other thing. Stop telling me I gotta be offline to do your stupid ass updates. I get so pissed off of that if I want to skip the update and I have to be offline because they won't let me online unless I do the update. Like it's like that's like the same. They brought that same thought process over to your PC. Say we're gonna tell you when you can reboot your computer, not when you want to do it. You do this now. Like what? But I got the creator update. It's actually pretty nice. One of the cool things is it can now capture in 1080p, up to 2 minutes with 1080p though they limited it, and you can actually change it to capture to an external drive if you want to. I haven't checked to see if it does 1080p 60. I can't tell if it does it or not. It just says 1080p SDR, which is the standard dynamic range, and then when you get the Xbox One X, it will capture in 4K. Which essentially makes the Xbox the first console or first capture device of any kind in gaming to capture in 4K.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Well, it's funny. It's funny when
it might only be 30 seconds, but you're doing it.
It's just going to say in terms of capture. When I went to the Xbox events, they had this capture device that you just slide in an SSD, and it can capture in 4K. And I was like, "How long?" It was like. You can do 96 hours straight. It's like, okay,
cool.
That is pretty nice.
That's acceptable. Yeah, thanks.
I was like, nice. Thank you very much. I wish my console
that's like when Comcast. That's like when Comcast tells you how much the DVR can capture. They don't tell you the size. They tell you the number of hours of content. It's like, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, 96 hours. I mean, when I looked at the capture, 1 minute was about 2 or 3 gigabytes, 4K 60 frames per second, high bit rate. I was like, this is a very fantastic capture device that you have here. They're like, yeah, it's commercial. It's not usually sold to. Sorry, it's not industry. It's not commercially sold capture device.
Gimme. I
know that's all you can see in my face. I was like,
1 minute at 3 gigs though. Come on, how long is it going to take to upload that?
Well, it's a commercial product. So it's not trying to compress anything.
No, it doesn't take that. I mean, when you render it, I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's not compressing anything when it's doing that.
Yeah, it's not compressing. Just like take it. So it was good. But anyway, we've got to part of the show where we talk about what we have on our channels and what we can expect next week. So, Mr. Warren Bowman, kick it off.
Oh, I have everything that I had last week. Is up there. And next week will be all some new stuff. I got a whole bunch of things of stuff of the iPhone relation, stuff of the phones we can't talk about yet relation.
You said iPhone relation.
Stuff of the Pixel 2, which we all should have next week. Relation.
I won't have my Pixel 2 next week. Yeah, it's arriving a week later.
Okay.
He seems so excited about this new Pixel 2.
I was excited when it was coming next week. When I found it was a week later, I just lost my excitement.
How did you get it a week later? Didn't it?
I don't know. It was confirmed. The next minute, I checked again. They're like, we moved you to the back of the line.
I went through a weird.
Well, let me live check that. So if I get mad, if they moved it, I can rant live.
What color did you order?
I ordered the black, not the Panda.
Oh, okay. So we ordered
black 128
black phones too, and we. So I originally tried to order the white one because Jaime was getting the black XL.
Let's just call it Panda. Come on.
And when I put in the order, it was literally like the same hour. The same hour I put it in, they were like, "Oh, by the way, it's going to take an extra week to ship." And you're like, "Well, canceling that order." So I don't know what they're doing with their supply chains, but the one that's most delayed is the kind of blue. Like that's going to be another month out from.
No, mine's still on time here. It says delivery by October 17th, 18th. To pay for the extra shipping.
Seriously?
Blah blah blah. Yeah. Well, I didn't mess around. I just went in and said bye. And I just sat there and said, "Well, it's up. Let me go do this now," because it was going through kind of smoothly. And I was like, "Nope, don't even think about it. You take. You know, if you don't like, because if you don't like it, just return it or whatever, or sell it later. But it's like if you sit there and take even 10 seconds to think about it, you're done.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I get mine on October 26th. So
not bad.
I might get one, so no.
How about you?
Mine is just black because I didn't get no like piano or panda. I can't get. Every time you guys say panda, I think of that stupid designer song. The one that goes like "It broads in Atlanta." Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I know the song.
Wow. Panda. The song's called Panda. The song, the album cover is a panda with a chain on. Serious.
Okay, I just want to see that album cover.
Look at it. Look what
and with a chain on. Okay, while you search for that,
look up the designer panda and look at the logo.
Could you tell us what we can expect from you?
So yeah, we just published this morning our iPhone 8 Plus review, which I'm sure tons of people are super interested in, with the iPhone 10 eventually around the corner. Likewise, we're gonna have Pixel 2 in-house coverage probably towards the end of the week, at least like the first 24 hours or an unboxing video or something like that while we're getting to know it. I'm hoping I missed a package yesterday, which I'm hoping is my V30. And if it is, that means we can also start jumping into the actual retail unit for our camera review and our real audio review. For Gadget Guy, I'm going to be wrapping up a review today on a super inexpensive pair of truly wireless earbuds. Maybe an option for people who don't want a wire tethering but don't want to spend $150 to $400 on a pair of earbuds. For VidMe, we recovered another episode of MYMHM that just went live about 15 minutes ago, where we're talking about one of my favorite period dramas involving Henry VIII. And there's something I can't talk about yet, but I hope a press release will be delivered on Tuesday. So I'll be hopefully making some noise about something cool going on with a cool company that could be interesting to talk about on Tuesday. So Tuesday could be kind of a big deal.
Tuesday?
I just said maybe pay attention to what's going on in my social media.
You know what it is? He's working with John Legary. That's what he's working on. He's going to be T-Mobile Tuesday. That's what that
Tuesday
is.
guy.
T-Mobile Tuesday guy.
It's not that. I'm so happy you went there instead of like, oh, he's Mexican. He's going to eat some tacos on Tuesday or something. Like,
oh boy.
I mean, I was going to go there, but he started.
He was going to go there. I was like, I know the joke, but that's usually he usually does that joke, so I'm going to go someplace else.
So that's not a thing that really happens?
Oh, Taco Tuesday is legit. I'm Taco Tuesday, but I'm allowed to joke other people.
Did you hear the wording in Sam's voice? That's not real.
I'm all about sharing that aspect of my culture.
I always thought it was like
our food rocks.
A superpower, kind of like some people can make jokes of certain racial jokes, and then some people just tacos on Tuesday. They're the only ones allowed to do it because that's who they are.
It's true. I actually don't have that superpower, so.
Dang it.
Well, on our end, we have a bunch of headsets. We have the Astro 820 wireless gaming headset, a review for that. Also have the HyperX Cloud Alpha, which are under $100 and they sound really good. Definitely check it out, especially the mic off the headset. Also, we did what I call the best Bluetooth headphones under $80 from Plantronics. Especially because they have really small drivers of 6 millimeters, and you shouldn't get the kind of sound you get from them. Has to do with the ear tips and all that fun stuff in there. Also put up our gaming on the Samsung 49-inch behemoth of a monitor, basically a TV for a monitor. And then a couple of trailer reactions, one for Justice League and one for Star Wars. So Definitely.
And I would say this to everyone: that preview for Star Wars, whoever put that together deserves a
It was
cut
a
of the
well
profit.
cut trailer. Though.
They deserve a cut of the profit because that sold me on the movie.
Sam was not like nowhere close to interested. I sent the trailer over. He's like, "Yeah, I'm watching this." So.
It was a no-brainer. I'm like, that's what previews are supposed to do. Wow, it was really great.
Yeah, I have to catch up on the other two movies to see what's going on. But I'm not the biggest Star Wars person. It doesn't excite me in the same way as others get excited for it. Just it's like I try and I'm just like, I don't know. It's
just got to get into the Force. Focus.
I don't want to get into that.
Oh, sorry, Vulcan mind melt. My bad. Sorry,
I don't know. I can't get into the force of bad stories, but overall bad story.
I really feel we just glossed over something we should be making more fun of E4.
I was joking. I did that on purpose.
No, I really
know the difference between a mind melt and the Force joke. I will force joke you across the screen.
You talk about Vulcan.
Oh Lord.
That's hilarious.
Oh man. Anyway, guys, thank you everyone for watching. Definitely check out.
Did you see that panda? Did you see the panda yet, Sam?
I saw it. I saw it, and I like the fact that there's different versions of that now. Because I look at it with a chain on. I've actually seen a red panda now wearing a chain, a gold chain. Okay,
yeah.
That's boss.
Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. Cuphead review's up, and it's got some footage from Warren beating Pepe the Clown. Sam playing perfect. Yet Sam playing some Cuphead, and me dying a lot. So all the deaths were.
So that was you dying most of the time.
This time was me in my game. I implore you guys, if you have a Windows PC, just trust me. Buy this game.
I just downloaded it. I haven't fired it up yet.
You will feel the nostalgia. You will enjoy it, and you will feel the pain. So I was
I've already gotten pissed off a few times already.
I was
all over again.
I was talking to someone, Microsoft rep, and then like one of our colleagues shared their, like you see the death count, and he died 485 times.
How, Sway? How?
On one boss, I can't remember what boss it was. Like they try, because the thing about Cuphead, sometimes like if you don't stop, you just run into frustration.
Yep.
Yeah, you just keep doing the same thing. So you have to kind of stop, go out, either play another boss, come back and play it again.
Well, the bad thing is once you perfect once, you try to do it every damn run, and it gets addictive. And I've come close, and I get pissed when I'm like, oh, I got hit. I'm just dying. Screw this. Screw this.
But anyway, guys, definitely look. Like I said, pick up the game. Juan, let us know what you think next week. When you play through, and definitely check out all the channels. You can check out Mr. Warren Bowman. He is at bw1.com. That is his channel. You can follow him there on YouTube and Twitter, Instagram. That is his handle, bw1.com, as well as also Mr. Juan Carlos Bagnell. He's part of the Pocket Now network. You can find his mobile videos there on Pocket Now. Also, he has his own personal channel. It is Some Gadget Guy, where he blogs about other stuff. Including audio, like he mentioned earlier. And he has his VidMe channel, which is just Juan Bagnell, where he brings up some good old entertainment videos with funky hairstyles.
He's got a book, too.
And yes, he has a book.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
How to teach you how to take some really good photos. You can find it on Amazon. If you search Juan Bagnell, right? And you should be able to find it.
Take Better Photos, Smartphone Photography for Noobs, available on Amazon Kindle. Still trying to get it on Google, but they're not accepting any new authors. So,
bummer.
Accepting new offers for a site that nobody buys books from.
And of course, Black Iron _Man, aka the richest guy here, because he's Black Iron Man.
Yeah.
He just bought a panda.
You do realize I only ride a bicycle, right?
But it turns into an Iron Man suit.
Exactly. It turns into an Iron Man suit. That's like Sam gets to work in like 5 minutes, but he tells me he's riding a bike. All the way from Brooklyn to the city. Yeah.
Well, he probably gets to work quicker than I do, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. And I'm closer to my job than he is.
And you got that Boston traffic, man.
No, I have the T.
Yeah, it's different words. And of course, for us, it's Booredatwork. You can follow us there on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff. So thank you very much, guys, and always enjoy your entertainment.